Hey, folks, great to see you again. A really fresh product trend this week based on my experience with a tool I was trialing last week. It really kind of inspired me to talk about something that most of SaaS product marketers or product managers even think they don't need. Um, I was testing this tool, and the UI was really quite straightforward and simple. I could easily figure out what I was supposed to do. Um, but then, I created the sequence. It was a sales outreach tool. Um, I plopped in my contacts into the prospects section. I started it all out, and then I waited and I waited and I waited, and I would have waited forever because what the tool didn't tell me was that if I added LinkedIn as steps into my sequence, I need to actually go to another place in the tool and perform the action manually while leaving the platform and going to LinkedIn to basically copy and send the message I wanted to send to my prospect. Um, and, as a completely new user to these tools, there was like no pop up, no dialog window after I have scheduled the sequence with LinkedIn and the steps telling me that I need to actually do that manually. So what I did was what anyone, maybe not even anyone, a determined prospective user would have done in this situation. So I clicked on the little chat icon that was from Intercom and chatted with the support. And then they sent me this funny product document in Intercom that I'm attaching below with like the arrows and the steps explained in red on a screenshot. And that was it. That was the first problem I had. I ended up contacting them about like 5 more times. And I wouldn't say I'm like the least, tech savvy person out there. So you can imagine someone who is a bit less familiar with that kind of technology, with SaaS tools in general, how many questions they could have had. At some point, we simply jumped on a call and, I showed them the problem I had. They walked me through the steps manually, right? And the guy was like, "Oh, you need to press on this tiny little LinkedIn icon here." I'm like, "Oh, I simply haven't noticed it because it's like grayed out and the scale is, the contrast is really, really low." And he said, "Oh yeah, a lot of people actually don't notice it, so don't worry." And I'm like, "Oh, if a lot of people don't notice it, then presumably they're writing to you a lot." And he's like, "Yeah." And then, there was this awkward silence because it was quite obvious that they needed just to put a tooltip there or, have a hotspot pointing that little tiny icon out. Not to mention that, of course, they should, improve their UI to make things a bit more visible. But sometimes, UI is not the same thing as UX. And this is what is the common problem and why so many product managers are so smug and they're like, "Oh, we don't need onboarding because we have good UX." No, UX is not the same thing as a simple and intuitive UI. UX is also how your users interact with your UI. And this is an individual thing, right? So a user will come to your tool with their own set of expectations. Me expecting these steps to kind of be performed automatically. And if their expectations are not met by how the tool interacts with them, they will be disappointed and they will be confused and they may not be able to achieve what they want to achieve with your tool. Hence, they will, in the best case scenario, go to your support. In the worst case scenario, they will just like vote with their feet and go to another tool. So, what you should do is react to their actions inside your product and inform them how your tool is going to behave. So show them what they can see on the surface level, what they can't deduce from the UI itself, which is what happened in my case. I didn't know that the sequence is not going to run because two first steps had to be performed manually, right? So this was the exact moment when the tool should react to my action of adding manual steps into the sequence by showing me a modal saying, "Hey, this is, a manual action and then showing me another tooltip. Hey, this is this tiny LinkedIn icon you need to click in order to leave the app and go to the prospect's profile, right? And then after I have done that, they actually needed to tick it off. They needed me to tick it off and say that this action has been done, because obviously they wouldn't know on LinkedIn. So there was actually on a completely different page. And there was no guidance saying, after you have completed this action on LinkedIn, like, hey, go to this page and tick this action off. Again, that would have saved me another message to support, and that would have saved support responding to that message over and over and over again. So again, if you have intercom, if you have in-app chat, this is still not enough, because some of your frustrated users will not have enough patience to write to your support to wait for the reply, right? So you will be losing your users because of that, right? So if you want to reduce your churn, make sure you have reactive secondary onboarding inside your app. And yes, you need it, even if your UI is really simple and intuitive, because of the individual expectations of your users. And yes, you need it even if you have in-app chat and live chat, and even if you have support documents, because people don't like to read entire pages in order to know where they need to go next to perform a specific action, right? I've already said too much about it. So if you want to learn more about setting up a reactive onboarding, click on the link below. And the example of HubSpot I'm giving below in the newsletter as well is brilliant, because it did exactly what I needed it to do. So after I have sent an email to several people, it showed me a dialog window inside my Gmail saying that this email will not be tracked in HubSpot because of like privacy laws or whatever. It has multiple recipients. So that really impressed me, because I would have expected, based on my experience with emails to single individual recipients, that this one should be tracked as well. So I would have probably thought that it was a bug in HubSpot, something that would reduce my satisfaction with HubSpot. And now my satisfaction with HubSpot has actually increased, because they did something that informed me in advance about the possible mismatch between their behavior and my expectations. So that's it. In order to achieve successful relationship with your users, you need to do exactly the same thing as you would do with your partner. Communicate in real time, right? If you're going to have a dinner with your ex-boyfriend, tell your boyfriend that it's going to happen before it happens and before they see it on Facebook, right? Makes sense. That's kind of, by analogy, the same situation. And I'm not speaking from personal experience, right? Not at all. Okay. I've already said way too much today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next week. And do check out the webinar, or rather panel discussion with Elise, which is linked below as well, on why product adoption is broken in SaaS, a very, very relevant topic as well. Okay, now for real. See you next week. Bye-bye.